This system was the difference between me working non-stop, buried in tasks, unable to prioritize, and me scaling effortlessly. And as soon as I laid it out in a super simple spreadsheet, suddenly everything clicked. My business started growing faster and I worked less. And when I gave it to my clients at selfmastery.co, they got the exact same result. So in this video, I'm going to give you that system. No fluff, no complexity, just a simple tool that will change how you run your business forever. And look, for this system to actually work for you and to change your business, there's one thing you need to understand. That is that most entrepreneurs aren't failing because they're not working hard enough. They're failing because they're working on the wrong things. You know, maybe you start your day reacting, checking emails, handling client work, getting sucked into random tasks. Maybe you don't have a clear idea of what is your priority. And so everything feels equally important. And because we're human, you end up going down the path of least resistance, doing the easiest non-needle moving tasks first. And so the day ends and you've been busy, like super busy, you've got loads done. But did what you get done actually move your business forward? You spent the entire day working in your business and not on your business. And this cycle repeats day after day, week after week, month after month, and maybe even year after year, until one day you wake up and you realize you're not running a business, it's running you. You don't have any of the freedom that you started for, that you wanted to achieve with your business. And this is where this simple spreadsheet, this simple system comes in. It forces you to take control, organize your time, and prioritize what actually moves the needle. Now, there's two real parts to this spreadsheet. They're both incredibly simple. And by the way, I normally keep this exclusively for my high-level clients, but if you want it, I will leave a link in the description below for you to get it. Now, let's start with the first sheet. And this is how you're going to gain clarity and structure around how you need to spend each day and when every single thing you need to do gets done. Otherwise, you'll end up like a professional athlete who doesn't know when his training sessions are. You'll just not show up to training and the work just won't get done. So let me show you how to do this. Inside this spreadsheet, you will see a standard week tab. The first thing you want to do is go to this tab and list out every single task you do in your business. Sales calls, content creation, team management, client calls, systemizing, strategy, emails, admin, everything. Now, you can obviously write this down on paper if you wish, but you can also just write it, below here in the spreadsheet. And the easiest way to do this is to actually go through your past week's calendar and write out every single task that you did. Now, if you can't do that, no worries. You're just going to have to think and really guess what you do, what every task you do in the business is. But don't be afraid to update this list over time if you realize, oh, I also do this task. The important thing here is that you write out every single task you do, no matter how important or how unimportant it is, and whether you spend 2 minutes on it or 2 days on it. The next thing you want to do is to assign every task you wrote down to a specific day. So you see these 7 columns, Monday to Sunday for each day of the week. You want to just go through the list of tasks that you do each week and assign them to a day. Now, some tasks will have a set day you need to do them. So for example, maybe you have a team call every Monday. Obviously, you want to write that in the Monday column. And then for other tasks, it will be entirely up to you when you do them. So you just assign them to any day of the week that you choose. However, with this, I would recommend 2 things. One, if you have a task you do multiple times a week. So for example, if you do a task every day, see if it's possible to batch all 7 goes of that task into one day. For example, if you create content every day, maybe instead you decide to create 7 pieces of content in one day so that it's done and out of the way. The second thing is to theme your days. So in business, every task really falls into only a few categories, marketing, sales, operations, finances, and this can look slightly different business to business, but this is a good standard example because every business is going to have marketing, sales, operations, and finance areas or functions of the business. And so what you can do is decide to theme your days in accordance to those business areas or functions, batching all your similar tasks that fall under each of those areas into one day of the week, or maybe 2 depending on your business. For example, maybe on Mondays you do all your content and marketing tasks. On Tuesdays you do all your client delivery and systems tasks. And on Wednesday you do all your problem solving, so like solving bottlenecks and growth project tasks. And then on Thursdays you take all your calls. So, a lot of people presume you can't do this, but you can just decide to take all your calls in one day of the week. I personally only take client calls 3 days of the week. You can do them in 1, you can do them 2, you can do them every day. It's up to you. But This here is obviously just an example. There's no real right or wrong way to do this. You can literally assign any task to any day of the week. It's entirely up to you. The main goal here is to simply give you a structure to follow and clarity around what you need to do, because in a few minutes, I'll show you how to use this in each day, but really that's all this is for. It just allows you to take all the tasks you have to remember in your head and put them onto paper in a consciously structured way to optimize how you spend your weeks. Now, to improve your efficiency at completing tasks so that you can grow faster because you're putting more effort into the right tasks, and also so that you can work less if you choose to, we want to batch tasks and theme your days. But again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. And just because, say, Monday is your marketing day, it doesn't mean you can't also do some work in systems that day as well. It's entirely up to you. And the final step for this tab is to simply calculate an estimation of how many hours you're working each day. So if on Monday you have 4 tasks, let's say task A, task B, task C, and task D, and they'll each take you 1 hour to complete, well then on Monday, your total estimated work hours is 4, okay? Now, this can be a bit of a skill to get right. You might vastly over or underestimate how long things take, but that's fine. You can update this if needed. You know, this doesn't have to stay this way. You can change it. And the real reason we want to do this is because when you're building a business, you should have an idea of how you want your business to look, and more specifically, how it complements your life. So one of the things I do with all my clients is we sit down, we craft an ideal work week. So how do you want your week to look in terms of work? Maybe you don't work the weekends at all, Saturday or Sunday. Maybe you only work 4 hours a day. You only take calls on Monday. It's up to you, okay? So if you want to work 12 hours a day, that's 100% fine. You're allowed to do that. But if you want to work 4 hours a day, that's 100% fine as well. But knowing how many hours you work each day is essential for allowing you to move toward your goal working hours over time, because how can you change it if you don't know how it looks right now? And in doing that, this is one of the best parts about listing out every single task you do, because you'll likely notice that there's a ton of tasks on there that don't grow the business that you don't need to do. Okay, and therefore they're wasting your time because, you know, they quite simply don't need done or don't need done by you. Therefore, you can choose to eliminate, automate, or delegate them, and in turn adjust how you spend your days and weeks and the total amount of time you work and what you're working on. But if you don't list out all your tasks and you don't assign them to a certain day of the week, you won't actually know consciously how many tasks you're doing that don't grow the business. Because you often do a lot of tasks just because you do them and you don't actually realize why you're doing them. So writing them down, getting them in front of you is really going to help give you an objective point of view as to what tasks you're doing and do you really need to do them. Now, of course, business isn't often as simple as just doing these set tasks each day. You're going to have projects to work on, whether it's client work or an internal project, and you're going to have big strategic actions that you want to pursue, like launching a new product, hiring a new staff member, systemizing a certain aspect of your business. And if you don't know how to prioritize these projects, strategic actions, you'll always default to urgent, low-value work, and in turn, you'll never do the big things that create exponential progress. That is why we have this second tab, the strategic action tab. The standard week tab, all it's doing, right, is giving you clarity and structure on how a standard week looks. You're listing out every task you have to do and you're structuring them in a way that suits your ideal work schedule and is optimized for, you know, productivity and effectiveness through batching and theming. But this tab, strategic action tab, gives you clarity and structure on what your growth, leverage, and high impact moves to focus on are, so that you're not just running in circles or forgetting about them or getting off track. Here's how to use it. So the first step is really quite simple. You go to the tab and any big project or strategic action that you need to work on, you just write it down in the strategic action column here on the left-hand side. Now, depending on your business size or stage, you'll have anywhere from 1 to 5 of these strategic actions at any one time. But of course, that's a problem because working on 5 big strategic actions at once is a recipe for disaster. You'll be unfocused, you'll be running around clueless as to what needs done, you'll forget steps, you'll fall behind, and you'll be completely overwhelmed and stressed due to all these open loops. Okay, because one of the issues is when you try to remember something in your head, whether it's tasks you have to do in terms of your standard week or projects you have to work on and the steps of those projects and the due dates of those projects and strategic actions, you create an open loop in your mind. Okay, your mind has to try and remember that thing, therefore it's an open loop. Open loops use mental bandwidth, cognitive energy, and we only have so much mental bandwidth. Okay, so enough of those open loops, you use up all your mental bandwidth, all your cognitive energy, therefore your productivity goes down, your effectiveness goes down, your discipline, your willpower, your ability to make good decisions, your ability to think strategically, everything that you want to be high, all those personal performance metrics, they all drop because you're literally using all your cognitive bandwidth trying to remember all these things, which also means you forget those things, you fall behind, and it creates chaos in your business. And a business does not grow off chaos. A business requires the order that comes from structure and clarity to grow, because order allows you to make things replicable and consistent. If something is replicable, as in you can repeat it and you can replicate it, you can improve it because you can change one single aspect. Okay, so what you want to do here is just write down the strategic action that you're focusing on right now in this strategic action column. You then want to write down every step that's required to complete that strategic action in the details column. You know, maybe, for example, let's say you want to improve the conversion rate of your sales page. You might have steps like analyze competitors' pages, update headlines to be focused on their number one goal outcome, add more CTAs, and track data. So to complete the strategic action of improving the conversion rate of your sales page, all you need to do is go through those 4 things. Now, once you have those steps written down, what you want to do is add a due date to each of them, and then add in whoever is doing that step. Maybe it's you, maybe it's a team member. This is going to depend on how your organizational structure looks. And then once each step is completed, you want to check the box. And what you can also do is you can highlight the due date and the step, and you can put a strike through them. So just, you don't have to do that, but I think it just helps me realize what I've made progress on and what's completed. Now, here's how we get into prioritizing these strategic actions. So anytime a new project or a new strategic action comes to mind, let's say, for example, strategic action 2, you just simply write it down in the strategic action column below the current one. You then fill out all the details, so the steps, the due dates for each step, and the who for each step. And quite simply, this is going to blow your mind. Really is, trust me. You just work downwards through this list. Okay, so for example, with this first strategic action, you cannot complete the last step until you complete the step before it. You can't complete that step until you complete the step before it, and so on. And you can't start the second strategic action until you've completed the last step of the first strategic action. Okay, you quite simply just work your way down the list. It is that simple. Okay, it'll keep you focused. It'll prevent you from being overwhelmed and allow you to continuously be making big moves and grow your business, because you're not going to be jumping from this project to this project and skipping this step and falling behind in this project. You literally just work systematically through the steps of the strategic actions you want to focus on. The funny thing is, a lot of my clients initially think this will slow them down because they can only work on one step of one project or strategic action at a time. But that is the magic of it. When you stop jumping from strategic action to strategic action and you just focus on one, you get more done in less time. You end up growing faster whilst working less. And plus, the main reason people think this, the main argument people have against this is that they're going to be moving slower. Okay? But that is only true in a short-term perspective, because on a day-to-day basis, you're potentially going to be getting less done because you're not jumping from project to project. But over the long run, over a quarter, over half a year, over 1 year, over 5 years, you're making more progress than the person who jumps project to project. Okay? At the end of the day, business is a long-term game. And this is going to, yes, it is simple. It's incredibly simple, but it allows you to work systematically without jumping from project to project. Now, the only real exception to this rule of working down the list is if you have a team, okay? Because what you can do here is you can assign certain steps of certain projects to a team member, and they can obviously work alongside each other on separate projects or whatever. But what you can also do is duplicate the blank template for each team member or for whatever team members you want. And you can throw them all into a Google Drive, and each team member can have their own version of this so that they can be more productive and efficient as well. And each of them can be working on a strategic action relevant to their area of expertise at the same time. Okay. Obviously, this can get a bit messier if, you know, a certain strategic action is limited by the completion of a prior strategic action, or if a step is limited by the completion of a prior step. But there's not much you can do about that. You just have to, in that case, work through the list. Now, it also means you can cut out so much unnecessary back and forth communication, because you can just go into that certain person's strategic action map, see what tasks are focusing on each week and what strategic actions or projects are working on, as well as the progress they're making and if they're on track, without having to text them and wait a response or hop on a call. Now, Having this set up in a spreadsheet is all well and good, right? But how on earth do you actually implement this in the day-to-day? Well, it's incredibly simple, like the best things. So every night when you're planning your day, which side note, I recommend you do plan your days the night before, you want to come into this spreadsheet. So bookmark it, I recommend, so it's easily accessible. And then go to your standard week tab. Let's say tomorrow's Monday. You look at Monday and say, okay, what tasks do I have to do tomorrow? You'll have them written out in your standard week, and then you can just schedule them. Now, I schedule my day in a pocket notebook. You can schedule yours however you want, but I would recommend trying something like this out on paper. I love it. All my clients prefer it, so I would highly recommend it. You can then go to your strategic action tab, look at the deadlines, see what steps need done tomorrow, what do you need to do, schedule them as well. Now, of course, your standard week tab is a representation of your standard week. So potentially things have popped up that only need done tomorrow, won't ever need done again, that they're not written in your standard week because they're not standard tasks. That is fine, okay? Don't overthink this. Just schedule them as well, because you cannot possibly account for what you didn't know would pop up. So don't be beating yourself up about that. Just schedule them. It really is that simple. And look, of course, this is not magic. It is not going to make you a billionaire tomorrow. But by doing this, you gain clarity and structure around what tasks you have to do, when, and what strategic high leverage moves you're focusing on to grow the business. And with clarity and structure, you remove chaos. You close open loops by offloading information you're solely storing in your head onto paper, or, in this case, a spreadsheet, a computer. And in turn, you destroy any overwhelm and improve your focus, your productivity, and your effectiveness. And look, honestly, whether you use this or not is entirely up to you. Okay, I don't care. I would like you to use it because I think it's really going to benefit you, but it's entirely up to you. Either way, you can either use it the way it is, or you can adapt it, okay? But do something to give you some structure and clarity around how you spend your days and your weeks, and what strategic actions you need to focus on, that you need to prioritize. Because if you want to scale effortlessly, and if you want to do it whilst not working every hour under the sun, then you need the order, and in turn the replicability and consistency that comes from clarity and structure. You cannot grow under chaos, okay? And look, if you want to see how I plan my days and schedule everything in a pocket notebook for maximum productivity, watch this video that's on screen right now, click it, watch it, and I will see you in the next one.